It started with blood on marble, just a single drop, bright against all that white, daring to exist in a place where silence was the only thing more polished than the floors. No one screamed, no teachers rushed in, and if you're waiting for justice, you'd still be standing there. But that day, Nia Carter 16, bruised but unbowed, stood with her lips split, eyes steady, and she whispered words that would echo far beyond the halls of Stonemont Prep. "You crossed the line," she said, and what happened next would unravel a kingdom built on privilege, expose the rules nobody wrote down, and prove the quietest voice can carry the sharpest truth. Blood doesn't always fall like rain. Sometimes it draws itself out slow, a red signature nobody wants to sign. That's how it was. Nia's blazer torn, her hand gripping cold brass, legs trembling, but she stayed upright. Across from her, Brandon Hale, cufflinks shining, wiped her blood from his knuckle like it was nothing. He wasn't angry, he was entitled, the way only someone who's always gotten away with it can be. Behind him stood Troy Langston and Caleb Dorsey, scions of donors and senators, silent as shadows. But their silence wasn't empty, it was permission. Brandon looked at her and said, "You really should have just done the assignment, Carter." It was casual, like a missed homework deadline, not a punch thrown in a hallway with no cameras. Nia didn't cry. She looked straight at him, no fear, just fire, and said it again, slow, steady. "You crossed the line." And for a split second, something flickered in Brandon's eyes, maybe a hint of doubt, maybe just surprise that she wasn't backing down. But it passed. He stepped closer, tried to make her flinch. She didn't. Her hand slipped in her blazer, fingers brushing a smooth, black Devisea button, not a phone, just a single blue light at its heart. She didn't press it. Not yet. But Brandon Hale had made a mistake, and Nia Carter never forgot mistakes. See, at Stonemont, the rules aren't written in the handbook or hung beneath the honor code. Nia learned them in glances that lingered just long enough to hurt, in a way her hand was never called on in class, in red pen marks that bled across her essays with no feedback, just points taken away. Brilliance didn't protect her. It made her a target. She'd come to Stonemont with Hopi, a scholarship girl, in a second-hand blazer, believing hard work would be enough. But she learned quick. If your last name wasn't on a building, you owed them. You owed silence. The first time Brandon crossed the line, it was subtle. Slave labor. He titled their shared document for a project. Troy laughed. She did the work once, then never again. "I'm not your assistant," she said. That's when it started. Her locker vandalized, notes destroyed, fake discipline slips on her desk. When she reported it, the secretary shrugged. "I thought you people were used to this kind of structure." Weeks later, Brandon slammed her into a wall and whispered, "Know your place." Teachers passed by. No one stopped him, but she felt every second. She didn't tell anyone. She knew how that script played out. "Are you sure? Maybe you didn't mean it." Serious accusations. Nia. So she bled in silence, cleaned up in the bathroom, and decided this wasn't just bullying. This was war. She walked back to her locker, pulled out the black case her father, a retired military man, had given her. "Only if you're cornered," he'd said. She thought it was overkill. Now, her finger hovered over the button. If she pressed it, everything would change. Her mother would be furious. Her father's past would resurface, but she wouldn't be alone. 2 days later, the school felt colder. Not quiet, just watchful. Nia noticed the way people looked at her now, not with respect, but with a kind of caution, like she'd broken the unspoken rules. Brandon strutted by, smirking. He wasn't suspended. No consecuencias. Nia kept moving, not because it didn't hurt, but because she refused to let them see her break. Something inside her had already cracked, but it wasn't defeat, it was resolve. Her plan wasn't revenge. It was evidence. She dug out the tiny camera her Uncle Tech was gave her last Christmas, for fun. She tucked it in her water bottle, turned on the feed, and started documenting everything. Teachers ignoring her, students whispering, microaggressions disguised as jokes. She didn't feel powerful, but she felt ready. That's when Savannah Moore showed UPA new transfer, wild curls, and a don't care attitude. "I saw what they did to you," Savannah said in the library, sitting beside Nia like they'd always been friends. For the first time in forever, Nia felt seen. Savannah's father was a journalist, a real one, the kind who takes down politicians. Savannah had lived through threats, moved because of stories, learned that truth has enemies. "I know the look," she told Nia. "Someone who's been eating injustice for breakfast." Savannah became her unexpected ally. Together, they watched the footage, Brandon making jokes, a teacher laughing along. "Let's burn the whole place down," Savannah whispered, not with fire, but with truth. She helped Nia organize evidence, break down patterns of bias, and realize this wasn't just toxic, it was engineered. The architecture was designed so no one looked responsible, but everything worked exactly as it should. "We exposed the system," Savannah said. That night, Nia pressed the button. Somewhere in Montana, her father, Colonel Marcus Carter, got the message, code red. He called in a team, old friends who didn't ask questions. By dawn, they were moving, gathering records, building a case. Marcus told them, "We don't scream. We show. We shield the flame." Back at school, Nia and Savannah went further. They bugged the principal's office, catching a conversation between Ellison and the mayor, Brandon's dad. "We phase out scholarships, target troublemakers, isolate Carter." They had names, recordings, a system to expose. But just as Nia started to feel hope, a teacher slipped her a flash drive. "You're not the only one recording." The system wasn't just cracking, it was bleeding. Marcus and his team traced money, scholarship funds funneled through shell companies, donors buying influence. Meanwhile, city officials plotted to expel Nia, make her a cautionary tale. Marcus decided, no more waiting. We bring the truth before they bury her. Nia and Savannah planted a camera in the student council room, catching Brandon and his friends admitting to setting her up. Nia uploaded the footage. By sunrise, the video was everywhere: hallway harassment, racist jokes, teachers complicit, the council confession. It exploded. Justice for Nia trended. Journalists called. Students shared stories. The world was watching. Federal agents arrived raiding the school. The mayor's office, Langston Holdings. Principal Ellison resigned. Brandon, Troy, and Caleb were suspended. Inside, Nia sat with Savannah, drafting new policies, zero tolerance for silence. Students nominated her to lead the advisory board. Change wasn't easy. Parents protested, trustees complained, but for the first time, the rules were written in ink, not whispers. Nia met a freshman who said, "Because of you, I stayed." In that moment, Nia understood victory wasn't applause, it was responsibility. At the next assembly, Nia stood behind the same microphone that once felt locked. "Truth is louder than power," she said. What they called trouble was actually truth, and truth should never be punished. People stood, not a standing ovation, an uprising. Marcus watched, tears in his eyes. Savannah whispered. She didn't need a rescue. She became one. Nia took her seat at the head of the boardroom. Tabellino one questioned it. This was reclamation, not reform. The story doesn't end with justice served on a silver platter. For weeks later, Nia walked the halls, pausing when a teacher brushed off a student, smiling at those who'd once looked away. Change was slow, but silence had competition. Her phone buzzed. "There's a school across the river, same problem. They want to meet you." She looked at Stonemont, the school that tried to erase her. Now, she spoke for those they never saw. Because sometimes, the loudest voices begin as whispers, and a girl who once stood alone, wiping blood from her lip, becomes the very voice that cracks the ceiling wide open. Maybe you've seen a Nia. Maybe you're a Nia. To you, I say, speak anyway. Share your story below. Your truth might just be the spark that lights the next fire. What do you think? Is justice just about policy or about the courage to break the silence? Let's talk.